Hi, everyone. Welcome to our last segment of our Parent Care Kit. So today we have a wonderful guest, and I'm very excited to introduce her to you. This whole project for us at Young Innovators has been a way for us to reconnect with our parents and to help you during this time. So I hope that you have been following along with us and getting value out of all of our segments. Today we have Gayle Hallgren-Rezac. She is an author, speaker, and chief engagement officer of ShepaLearning.com, where they provide keynotes, online training, webinars, and workshops on networking. I first met Gayle when I returned to Canada after a decade of working abroad. So I noticed I had lost all of my contacts, and there was an opportunity to attend a networking workshop. So it was my first and only networking workshop ever. And I got so much value out of it. So I met Gayle and her business partner, Judy, there. And through networking, Gayle and Judy actually landed a publishing contract. There are remarkable stories on their website. Go to shepalearning.com to read it. And I thought the workshop that I attended was so fantastic and useful that they completely transformed my mindset towards networking, which is why I invited Gayle today to share her tips with us for our relationships and connections segment of our Parent Care Kit. A fun fact about Gayle, people aren't born great networkers. These skills can be learned. So Gayle's daughter had been hearing about networking for almost 26 years. And not long ago, her daughter Anna was at a party hosted by the managing partner of a law firm that Anna's husband works for. So Anna had met the couple a number of times for social events for the firm. And the wife, who was also another managing partner at her own law firm, said, "Anna, I know you will have met everyone in the room by the end of tonight." So that's proof that you can teach your kid to be a great networker. So welcome, Gayle. How are you doing?
I'm good. That's such a great story. And I think that's something that every parent has to really think about, is that they can teach their child to be more engaged, to not be afraid to talk to people, and to be proud to be a good networker and to be the right kind of networker. And, with my daughter, Anna, one of the interesting things is that every once in a while I hear things that I've said just, in passing, or maybe when we're having dinner, and I hear her repeating them. And so, one thing that I always say, and it's probably one of the most powerful things, and it's really what our type of networking and connecting is all about, is it's not something that I came up with. It is something that is a very famous saying, and it's that people will never forget how you made them feel. And it's just fun when I hear her say the same thing to someone else, when she's explaining why you have to treat people with care and to really respect their sense of self and try to do good things for them. So, I think it's an important thing that all parents should know when they're going through this program here is, hey, how can I get my kid more engaged? How can I get my kid to be a better networker, a better connector, and not be afraid to, talk to people, be able to circulate in a room? I know you can't do that right now because of what's going on with COVID, but really you can be a mentor for your child so that they can use these incredibly valuable career skills of networking. So how am I feeling right now? I am feeling anxious. I am worried about which shoe is going to drop next. I am thinking about people who are challenged by this pandemic in ways that I have been lucky not to have experienced, and looking at retailers out there, looking at restaurateurs. I just read an article in the Globe about the system at underneath all the big office towers in downtown Toronto. It's called the Path. It's usually just jammed with people. You can't even move in that area, and they have a reduction of about 97%. There is nobody there, and I know that those businesses a lot of them are small businesses, and I'm like, how are these people going to survive? So I'm anxious about that, but I am also encouraged just a little bit by what's going on, because I think that what's happening is that people are doing a little bit of a mind switch. your boss who was like, oh, no, we can't work remotely. Oh, no, I don't want to touch that Zoom. Sounds like it's a really scary thing to do. Well, it happened in about a week. Everybody embraced working remotely, and it seemed to work for them, and they were okay with it. So I'm interested and excited about how you marry both of these things, that you keep the basic concepts of networking, the core concepts of networking, which is reaching out to your network and using some of these new tools until we can get back to the way we were. But I can tell you, I miss it. And I think a lot of people miss it, being able to connect with people face to face. And I'm just waiting for that to change and for us to go back to the way it was before, but taking all these new tools with us into our, into the next year or 2 years.
Exactly. It's been quite devastating, but at the same time, there have been gifts of the pandemic. And I'm very excited to hear about all of your tips that you're going to share with us in regards to networking. So is there something that you're currently really excited about, Gayle?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that people who were Luddites, who did not want to embrace any of the social networking, did not want to think about remote working, well, all of a sudden, they realize that they can do it. So you are at a certain point in your career where you need to be at home more. I always say when you got 3 kids and you're in that middle part of your career, you can still network, but you really have to think about what is the most important thing in your life at that point in time. But then after you've brought your kids up and they all leave the nest, you got to go back out there and start networking again. So I'm excited that we have these new tools. I'm excited that bosses are saying, it's okay. You can work from home. You can work from home 3 days a week, or you can work from home 5 days a week. But, when you're working from home, you are alone and you are isolated. So you need to continue to network, and it's all up to you because you're not bumping into someone in the coffee room, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, everybody can do a Zoom call now, right?
Right.
I've been teaching over Zoom for a while, and it's great. Sometimes there's a stigma towards networking, and some people absolutely dread it. My undergraduate students tell me that they feel anxious and stressed when they think about going to a room and talking with strangers that they don't know in a formal business setting. So Gayle, is there a way to reframe networking and sort of change that mindset that is very transactional and it's very stressful and anxiety inducing? What can people who dislike the word networking do to conquer that fear and dislike of networking?
Okay. So the first thing is, don't use the word networking, use the word connecting. Instead of saying I'm a great networker, say I'm a great connector. And the second thing is to practice something that we call positive networking. And we actually feel so strongly about this concept that we trademark this term positive networking. And what it is, it's really very simple, but it's not what most people think. Most people, the reason they don't like networking is they think it's silly, pushy, transactional, but that's not what networking is. Networking is not all about you. It's discovering what you can do for someone else. So when you're thinking about how do you build a relationship with someone, if you are a taker, maybe people will help you for a little while, but that's not the kind of way you build a strong bond with someone. But if you are a giver and you do things for other people, what happens is you build trust, and all of a sudden what happens is a relationship. So being a positive networker is, you have to do some things that are strategic as well. But really, when I meet someone, I'm not thinking, I wonder what I can get from that person. I immediately think, I wonder if there's anything I can do for them. And you don't have to be Mighty Mouse, here I come to save the day. Sometimes it can be a really small thing. And obviously there are other times when, you go out and you help someone find a job, as an example. So this philosophy takes all the pressure off. A student, if they're going out, they don't have to sell themselves anymore. actually what all they have to do is they have to start asking questions, which is one of the biggest challenges. People are like, what am I going to talk about when I start networking? Well, if you are thinking about discovering what you can do for someone else, you know what? You start asking those questions and then you follow up with it.
Right. I love that philosophy. This was a philosophy that changed my mind about networking. I have to confess, before I went to yours and Judy's workshop, I thought of networking as just, something that needed to be done. I didn't think of it as a way to connect with others and, givers gain. I believe that is definitely very powerful and the right mindset to have. And I tell my students that all the time now. So
Great.
the legacy of your workshop lives on, Judy and
Thank
Gayle.
you. Thank you very much.
All right. So the next question from our parents is about job loss. As some of them have lost jobs, what are some important steps they should take now in terms of genuine and positive connection for their job search?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is that prior to the pandemic, if you lost your job, well, your new job was finding a job. So I think we have to continue to stay focused on that idea that it's not something you kind of do off the side of your desk. It's like you have to go all in to get that job. And so to do that, the first thing you need to do is take a look at your network, assess your network, the network that you presently have. And if you have been a positive networker, you've probably gone out and doing things for other people. And as a result, you have a lot of people who have high trust with you, who are bonded with you. But you know what? If you haven't really been a positive networker or have really kind of built your network, you still have to do the ask. And the fact of the matter is that going forward, you can think about ways that you can help those people as well. So the first place you have to look, and it's the hardest place, is you have to go to your strategic network. And your strategic network are people who are probably a little higher up the food chain than you are. They are more senior people, but you have to figure out a way to make that ask, to ask them either, can you help me get an informational interview? Could I get 15 minutes with you to talk about, which direction I should go? Can you give me some coaching guidance on this? And you know what, if you don't leave it open-ended, like, can I please, chat with you to pick your brain about, me finding a new job. If you can be more concrete, give them a limited amount of time out of their busy day that you want. People will say yes. I mean, people are good, and they want to help people. So
Absolutely.
You have to think about that ask.
Yes.
And you also have to do something that's old school and new school together. And so you reach out to this network of yours, and then what you do is you use all those old techniques that you were using before. So if it's an informational interview, like, have your questions ready. Don't make that conversation too long. I mean, I think everything has to be shortened in this period because the Zoom meetings go on forever. Every meeting should be at least a third less than it would normally be face-to-face because it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. And it's the research shows that Zoom meetings or video meetings are draining. So be prepared, have your ducks in a row before you go into a meeting. I think the other thing to do is to maybe what you have to do is rethink your career. And this is interesting because, so many people, they're like, well, I just have to do what I'm doing right now. But maybe what you need to do is to go on a couple of websites and start thinking about, well, what are the other things I can do? Maybe I'm pushing on a string to try and get a job in my field, in my industry. So, I was just Googling and I saw there were all kinds of really interesting things. Obviously, the government of Canada has a lot of information on the jobs that you can get during this time of the pandemic. But also there are lots of HR firms as well, and they're talking about jobs that are trending in industry and just jobs that are trending. So take a look at that stuff, be open to it, and maybe what will happen is you will see a new opportunity here because truly the world has changed. So yeah. I think, I can best describe this whole job process situation with an example. And this is a true story. This is a young lawyer that I know, a friend of mine, and he had lost he didn't have a job. He had left law school, he'd articled, and there were no jobs. And he was a corporate lawyer. So he had to go out to his strategic network. And this is a young guy, you know, he doesn't have a lot of people in the strategic network. So he actually went to friends and family because, you know, friends and family, there are people who are older who've had their career for 20 years or whatever. And he asked them, could you give me some names and could you introduce me? This is difficult to do, but could you introduce me to someone who could help me either as a mentor or just somebody that I could have an interview with? And, you know, do you have any people for me? And, you know, sure enough, because he went to this much more senior group of people, did the ask, these people, it's no big deal for them. They picked up the phone, you know, they phoned a senior partner in some firm. They phoned a managing partner in another firm because he was a young guy and they wanted to help him. But what he did next is really important as well, is he did the follow through. So wherever you are in your career, think about, like, just don't go to the obvious people. Like, is there, like, it could be an uncle who is really connected. And maybe that's who you should ask to help you find this job in this either new field that you want to get into or in the field that you're working in. And so what he did is when he started building those relationships with those people, they were now, he recognized these were now people in his strategic network, and he had to treat them a certain way, which meant he couldn't waste their time. He had to be reliable. And he had, when they gave him suggestions, he did them. So the next time they asked him, hey, you know, did you do anything about that accounting session I thought you should look at? He said, yeah, I went to it. So the next thing that happened with this process was that these people were saying to him, well, maybe you should get into insolvency because you're in corporate. And like that business is just tanking right now. So once you become an insolvency lawyer, he's starting out, right? So it's how you would present yourself to a firm because there's obviously, sadly, a lot of insolvencies out there. So anyway, that's what he did. He switched from what he thought, this is my thing, I'm going to be a corporate lawyer, to be, I'm going to be an insolvency lawyer and I'm going to learn this stuff and I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to approach firms. So he did all those things, but he also kept talking about needing a job. So every time he was out with his friends, every time he was sitting on the beach at Kitsilano as an example, and he saw somebody who was a friend of a friend or whatever, he always mentioned it, you know, I'm looking for a job, you know, this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. Well, sure enough, this is where randomness is important too. It's not always like you have to manipulate every situation. Sure enough, he met someone, and this person was a senior partner in an insolvency firm, and he became a really great mentor to this young lawyer. So did this young lawyer get a job with that insolvency firm? Actually, he didn't. But it's a happy story anyway, because through this process, he used not only friends who said, yeah, you'd be really good at this insolvency. Do you remember when we were in law school together, there was that lawyer in insolvency that you talked to an event, and so the young lawyer was going, oh yeah, right, I could touch base with him. And sure enough, that's what happened. He touched base with a weak link, you know, was 1, 2, 3 degrees away. The person, you know, introduced him to everyone in the firm. He's working there now. He is as happy as he can be. But what is one of the most powerful things out of this whole painful exercise of getting a job is that he has these brand new people in the strategic network. Yeah, he's not working for them, but they all know him and he stays connected with them. So this is a dynamic time for you to start looking for a job, but you've got to be flexible and you've got to be bold and you've got to be professional.
Right. I highly agree with finding a mentor. I myself have a mentor and I also mentor others. Is very effective to help you see things that, like, to see things from a different perspective that you wouldn't normally see. And let's go back to that weak link. I remember this from your workshop, Gayle. You know, like a weak link. What can you go into that a little bit more in depth? What is a weak link exactly, and why is it that people find their next job more through weak links rather than their immediate connections?
That's right. Well, what they find, and it's actually work that was done by Mark Granovetter. It was done probably 35 years ago. It is still heavily cited by scientists and social scientists. And what Mark Granovetter found is that people found if they were looking for a job, they did not find their job through a close contact. They found it through a weak link. And I think it was at about 83%. This is how people found jobs. And they found better jobs as a result of it. So the fact of the matter is that 1, 2, and 3 degrees away are powerful for you because they open you up to new opportunities and maybe even in new areas which you hadn't even thought about. For example, you know someone here and you are looking for a job in HR. But if you go into your network and you go 1 or 2 degrees away through them, you may find out that there's a job in Toronto that's going to pay 30% more than the job that you have now, and it's a perfect job for you. But you would never have found it here in Vancouver. You find it through this weak link in Toronto. So, you know, road trips are great for, for close friends are great for road trips and, the occasional interest-free loan, but they suck for job leads and blind dates because they know the same people you do. So all we're trying to say to you is widen your circle, open yourself to the possibility. Remember, when you meet one person, you're not just meeting that person, you are now connected to their network. 1, 2, or 3 degrees, very powerful.
Yes, definitely. Well, Gayle, do you have any top networking or connection tips for us?
Well, the first thing is, and I've already discussed this, you just have to have the right philosophy. And the right philosophy is you thinking about what you can do for someone else. But then you have to use the tools that are out there. So, be sure, I mean, it's old fashioned, but I use email a lot because I often will see something and I think that's a really great article for someone. And I'll send it to them and and that's how we reconnect because I'm not trying to get anything from them. I'm just sending them an article that they would be interested in. I reconnect all the time with people on Instagram. These are often more personal friends, but some of them are business people, but I like their posts. I make comments. I go on Facebook and do the same thing. But probably the biggest and most important tool is that using LinkedIn effectively, which means having a profile that is 100% completed, posting articles on there, liking, commenting on LinkedIn. And also one of the things, and probably most of your listeners know this, is that LinkedIn is a great place for finding a job, that you can look for job searches. You follow companies you are interested in, and oftentimes something will pop up that way. So just like, there's a saying, if you can't get out of it, get into it. Just embrace it all, learn it all. So that's the most important thing. And the second thing is respect other people's time. And I don't know, there's a lot of wasted time happening right now with people connecting and whatever, and taking just too much of other people's time because, well, we should have a meeting, or, oh, I could talk to someone on the phone about this. But you know what? Pare everything down, respect other people's time. But even more importantly, and this is the third point, is respect your own time. You're already busy. You're probably multitasking. You were a teacher probably all summer long, and you were the camp counselor all summer long, and you may even still be doing all of that. Or now you're some kind of nurse or doctor in waiting because you never know what your kid's going to come home with. And you may even be doing it all off of the kitchen table with everything else that's going on. So you have to respect your own time. And it's networking. It always, it goes to the bottom of the list. So what you want to do is put it into your calendar, use your calendar and say, okay, twice a week, I'm going to focus on my networking. I mean, if you're looking for a job, it's like every day I'm doing this, and every day I do it from 10 to 12 or whatever it is. And what you do is then once you've put that first time and date into your calendar, let's say you're doing it on Tuesdays from 2 to 4, you want a network. Well, then you go into your calendar and then you push the repeat button. Because every week that will come up, and every week you will see it, and you may say, I'm too busy to network. I don't have time to make these connections. I don't know how to, I've got more things to do to reach out to people that, my boss needs me. But after a while, you'll keep seeing it, and he'll say, I really should be thinking about myself and respecting the fact that I need to continue building my network during the pandemic. So for me, that's the best discipline of all, is that I put it in my calendar and it pops up and reminds me, hey, I'm networking for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, so you can schedule that in. All right. Well, when we did our survey for the parent care kit, we asked the parents about the biggest pressing concerns and issues they've been facing. And a lot of them wrote back that they've noticed their children have been online and have been on their phones too much. So do you have any recommendations, Gayle, for ways to be more connected, but as a family that's fun and gets preteens and teenagers off their phones and computers, yet they're still connecting?
Well, I have one idea. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
don't have more than that because I think it's so hard. I think it's a really difficult thing to do. And but this is my idea, and it's not really mine. It's one of my other daughter's ideas. She has a teenager and a 9-year-old, 10-year-old now. And what they do is they watch Modern Family together. Now, I mean, you have to pick something. First of all, you got to pick something that's already on TV, on Netflix or something, so you don't have to have such a structured thing. Okay, kids, it's 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. We're all going to sit around and watch such and such. What they do is, hey, tonight we're going to watch just one Modern Family or two Modern Families, and there's a million Modern Families, so you can keep doing it. But I can tell you, all of them watch it together. The whole family watches Modern Family together. And I have to say, I think it's one of the funniest shows. So maybe it's Friends, maybe it's Game of Thrones, I don't know. But find something that your kids could like. You may say, well, they wouldn't like Modern Family, but these young boys, they think it's pretty funny and they like it. So I say, don't make it too complicated. Don't try anything like, okay, it's Scrabble night tonight. I think instead you say, hey, let's put on the TV and watch whatever that show is that you all want to watch together. And yeah, you make popcorn or order pizza or do something to incentivize them a little bit more. But that's a great way to get the family together without it being, too forced and too much work for you because you're already busy, right?
Hmm. Yes. Well, what about setting the camera like just nearby and then having a watch party with other relatives who might be, socially distanced in another area, and you
Yeah,
can just leave the camera on. You don't have to be facing it directly because that's exhausting too. But
I
if you
know.
just leave it running in the background, and then maybe, both families or grandma and grandpa, you're watching it all together, and then you can hear each other's comments and talk to each other. Maybe that might be a way of connecting and
That
using
could
technology.
Yeah, that could actually, that's a really good idea. I guess the other thing, and I've seen people do it, I haven't done it, but like when you're having a special dinner, you bring other people in to have the dinner with you from wherever they are. It depends on the family too, Can they all make it fun, or do they all find it a little weird and, crazy? But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, see if your grandparents laugh at the same things that you laugh at. But I find that with my grandchildren, that there's some shows that we watch and my kids that we're completely fixated by. We have to watch them, and they're hilarious. So it's nice to laugh together, even if you have to do it from a distance.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you're all palled up together on the couch, so it's
Yeah, yeah.
great. All right. Well, Gayle, do you have any last favorite tips, resources, or strategies for maintaining relationships and connections that you would like to recommend to our parent audience today?
Well, embrace the technology. First of all, learn every platform that's out there so that you feel comfortable. If you are, let's say you're doing a job interview and it's on WebEx, and yeah, all the the toggles are in different places, or it's on Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or you may it could be just a simple video call. But learn how to use all the technology. And, it's also an opportunity for you to start using some of the technology that's out there, such as Slack, which is a messaging technology. When you do get your job, they may have that in the company. It would be really nice to already know how to use it. You can, get a a free Slack account. You can use Microsoft Teams, learn how those things work, because that is part of the way that connecting and internal communication is going to happen in the future. So if you've got some free time, this is the time to learn that. And, I think the other thing is, like, look for apps. I have found this absolutely amazing app. It's called CRISP, KRISP, and I'll put that into the document as well. And that is, it's an app that allows you to, I'm just going to tell you what they say. They say with a single button, the background noise going from you to the other call, to the other call participants is removed. And I've seen one of the videos where this guy has a screaming baby on his lap, and you can't hear the baby. And now I didn't realize the other part of it is you can also block out the noise of the barking dog on the other person's call. So
that's incredible. I never knew there was such an app.
KRISP, and I think it's free. I think they have it's free for, as long as they let you have it for free. But, all of a sudden, all that worry you have that, your husband is grinding his morning coffee or your kids are fighting in the other room, you don't have to worry about that. You can carry on your professional conversations, and you've got an app for that. So, those are the kind of things I think just make life a lot easier for you. And the other thing is, just be this positive networker. Change the way, if you are afraid of networking, just change the way you think about it. Become a giver. And discover what you can do for other people, and it will change how you feel about asking for help, because if you are helping other people, it's not so hard to ask for help. And working remotely is not going away, and we have to recognize that. So it's not going to stop, and networking is not going to stop because of the pandemic. So just keep it as a priority. Don't say to yourself, well, I'll do it when this is all over, because there are opportunities right now for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Networking doesn't have to stop just because of the pandemic, right?
Because of what they call social distancing, which it really isn't. It's actually physical distancing.
Yeah, the second person.
And I'm like, I want to change it, but I don't think I have a chance now.
Yes, yes. So we just have to do things a little differently.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much, Gayle. I know Gayle has written a survival guide for networking remotely for us, and that's going to be available to you, our audience. Now, Gayle, what are 2 easy and fun challenges you would like parents and their children to implement after watching or listening to our video today about positive networking?
Well, we just did this actually on a webinar a couple days ago, and we asked people at the beginning of the webinar, what's one good thing that's come out of this pandemic for you? And these were all students at university, graduate students. And my business partner, Judy, she thought that was a good idea to do this. I was like, well, I don't know. People probably just only think of negative things. It was amazing. People had so many great ideas, inspirational things that they had done. And, I just wrote down a couple of ones that I thought were kind of funny. One is, my dog is happy I am at home. I didn't know my neighbors were so interesting. My dad could bake bread. I see my grandparents more often because we use Zoom. So that's the first one. And then the second one is something that, families don't talk about these kind of things that often. But the idea is, I get them to write it down just so everybody can read, and then you can say, well, who said this? So what you want to do is just get like a recipe card or piece of paper and ask everyone to write down, what is one thing or 2 things that we could do to make things better when we're stuck here at home? And that's kind of appreciative inquiry, asking the question in a positive way. And you may be surprised what people say. Your kids may say they want to have a scheduled Kentucky Fried Chicken night, or they want to make sure we get pizza every Friday night and watch Modern Family, or whatever it is. But you never know, maybe even if it's the mom or dad saying that, I really wish my kids would, like help me fold the clothes at night, or, wish they would, do some kind of clean. Maybe kids, when they're not asked to do it, but when they hear what would really matter to their parents, maybe they would think about doing it. I can't promise that. That may be pie in the sky thinking on my part. But I do think, it's worthwhile, and it's a discussion that you can have as a little surprise, right? And you pull out who said this? I wonder who said this. So, those are my two ideas. I think the first one is kind of cool. I think the second one first one's an A idea, the second one's a B idea.
Okay. All right. Well, did you want to share a story with us about all of this?
I do, and I want to
Oh,
end on a kind of inspirational note. And there's a gentleman that we know. His name is Ken Haycock, and he is a research professor honorary at the University of Southern California. He was previously a research professor of management organization at the very prestigious Marshall School of Business at USC, and he founded the Center for Library Leadership and Management. He is really, he's a thought leader in his field. And this was just something he put on his LinkedIn page. And I think we could all do something like this. At the end of this LinkedIn post, he said that I copied this post from someone else and encourage others to copy it from me. We are all in this together. So this is what he said. We know Ken, and we know he is a genuine, authentic person. And what he said, he means. And maybe you would do the same thing. Maybe you would write something like this, post this on your LinkedIn page, or reach out to people who you know might be suffering, or you have lost their job, or whatever. This is really a way to be a positive networker, connector, and a giver. So this is what he said. If you have been laid off, furloughed, and we have worked together in the past, had a coffee, a lunch, a drink, a phone call, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me and let me know if I can help. Can I put you in touch with a contact of mine? Can I write a LinkedIn recommendation for you? Need a pick-me-up conversation? Need portfolio advice? So I think we can all do that. And I think it would have an impact. Sometimes,
that's
you just have to
wonderful.
you just have to put it out to the universe.
Right. And that's one way that you can be a giver and help others genuinely. Thank you so much, Gayle. That's fantastic. I know you always give every week with your weekly newsletter, right? Can you share with the parents what your newsletter is all about?
Well, it's the shortest newsletter in the world. It's 200 words, and it is a weekly networking tip. And right now we're focusing on remote networking and connecting. And obviously what we think is important about it is, number one, it keeps networking top of mind. And secondly, it just may be that trigger when you're thinking about, well, I booked this time to do some networking this week on my calendar, and it just popped up. Maybe I'm going to follow some of that advice that I received from Shepa Learning Company on their weekly tip. And we spend a lot of time thinking about it, and we try to make it really worthwhile for people. So I encourage people to go to shepalearning.com and sign up for our free weekly tip. It's an easy sign up. Put your name and your address, and then you just have to acknowledge it when the email comes in. So I hope I see some people from this wonderful course you've been teaching, signing up for tips too. And thank you, Pearlie. It's really been fun.
Thank you, Gayle, for spending your time and sharing with us your top networking tips. All right, parents, I hope this week you've learned a little bit more about connections and relationships and the right mindset to have towards making positive connections for your career. I will see you soon. Bye, everyone. Bye, Gayle.
Bye-bye.